On November 4, 2010, a Qantas Airbus A380 took off from Singapore bound for Sydney with 440 passengers and 29 crew. Minutes later, at 7,000 feet, two loud bangs tore through the aircraft. Engine number 2 exploded. Metal fragments ripped through the left wing and fuselage. Fuel streamed from the wing. Inside the cockpit, warnings began stacking up faster than the crew could read them. This was no routine engine failure. The aircraft was only 2 years old, the first A380 delivered to Qantas. In the cockpit were 5 pilots. Captain Richard de Crespigny, a former Royal Australian Air Force pilot with over 15,000 hours, was undergoing a check. First Officer Matt Hicks had even more experience on the A380. 2 check captains and a second officer completed the crew. Before departure, the captain had made it clear he was in command. Now that clarity mattered. The captain leveled the aircraft and stabilized the climb. Engine 2 was shut down. They declared an emergency. But alerts continued: hydraulics, electrics, flight controls. Around 650 wires had been severed by shrapnel. Critical systems were failing across the aircraft. Passengers on the left side could see holes in the wing and fluid pouring out behind them. The crew tried to discharge the engine's fire extinguishers. No confirmation came back. Unknown to them, the fire system itself had been damaged. Engine debris was falling over Batam Island in Indonesia. News outlets began reporting that a Qantas aircraft might have crashed. The crew had no idea. Satellite communications were down. They were on their own. Engine 1 and 4 were running in degraded modes. Engine 3 appeared stable, but there was no certainty. The aircraft was flyable for now. The captain faced a decision: return immediately or hold and understand the damage. Landing too soon without knowing which systems were working could be catastrophic. Staying airborne risked further failures. He chose to hold near Singapore, within gliding distance, while they worked through more than 100 warnings. At 7,400 feet, over the sea, they began methodically diagnosing the aircraft. The green hydraulic system was losing fluid. Without it, flight controls would be sluggish. The landing gear would rely on gravity. The leading-edge slats would not extend, forcing a much higher landing speed. Braking performance would be reduced. They could not dump fuel. The aircraft would be about 50 tons overweight on landing. Fuel loss from the left wing was also creating a growing imbalance. To see the damage directly, the second officer left the cockpit. On cabin screens, passengers were watching the tail camera feed showing fluid streaming from the wing. From inside the cabin, he confirmed severe engine damage and heavy leakage. Back in the cockpit, the crew rejected certain automated instructions, including transferring fuel into the leaking tank. Experience overruled automation. After more than an hour, they had a working picture of the aircraft. It was time to land. They entered data into the landing performance system. The computer could not process the number of failures. By removing lesser faults one at a time, they forced it to produce a result. They would need to approach 35 knots faster than normal. On the 4,000-meter runway, they would stop with about 130 meters to spare. The margin was razor thin. Cabin crew were briefed to prepare for a possible runway overrun and evacuation. Emergency services were requested. Before turning back, the captain tested the aircraft. Flaps extended slowly. The aircraft felt heavy and unresponsive, especially in roll. The landing gear dropped by gravity and locked in place. To manage thrust, engines 1 and 4 were left steady. Engine 3, apparently the most reliable, would control speed. They lined up for a long, 20-mile final approach. The aircraft crossed the threshold fast and touched down firmly. Maximum braking. Engine 3 into reverse. The runway disappeared beneath them. The first officer confirmed full braking. The aircraft continued down the runway before gradually slowing. It stopped with roughly 150 meters remaining. Then a new threat emerged. Fuel was pooling beneath the left wing. Brake temperatures exceeded 900 degrees Celsius and were rising. Engine 1 was still running and would not shut down. Outside the aircraft lay tons of spilled fuel and a live engine. Evacuating carried risk. Staying on board carried risk. The crew decided, for the moment, the safest place was inside. Fire crews sprayed foam under the wing. 13 minutes after landing, with conditions more stable, the captain ordered passengers to disembark using air stairs on the right side. With most radios disabled, the crew used mobile phones to coordinate ground support. All passengers were safely transported back to the terminal. No one was injured. Engine 1 continued running for nearly 3 hours before fire crews finally shut it down with foam. Investigators later found the cause: a manufacturing defect in an oil pipe inside the Rolls-Royce Trent 900 engine. A crack allowed oil to leak into the turbine area. The oil ignited, damaging a turbine disc. The disc failed and burst, sending fragments through the engine casing in a rare uncontained engine failure. Inspections followed across the fleet. 53 Trent 900 engines were removed from service. No similar event has occurred on the A380 since. The aircraft was repaired and returned to service. What began as a routine flight became one of the most complex emergencies ever managed in commercial aviation, resolved through discipline, experience, and teamwork.